They roamed the planet for longer than modern man. Neanderthals, fearless hunters who possessed superior strength and surprisingly advanced tools.
It's perhaps one of the most efficient technologies we've ever seen in the entire Stone Age.
But then suddenly they vanished, and no one knows why. Gibraltar, at the tip of the Iberian Peninsula. Here along the Mediterranean coast, a vast complex of caves dot the shoreline. Today, waves encroach upon them. But 24,000 years ago, with the height of the last ice age fast approaching, the sea level was more than 100 feet lower. This was dry land, home to the very last of the Neanderthals. Inside the caves, teams of archaeologists search for remnants of Neanderthals past.
Everything about the cave looks right for a Neanderthal. We sort of get a feeling for these things.
Here for generations, Neanderthal families gathered around the fire and prepared meals together. A far cry from the ape men scientists imagined when the species was discovered in Germany in 1856. Deeper still in the cave, there are even more remarkable signs of Neanderthal life. The passageway winds towards a recently excavated chamber.
So we're just coming to what must have been one of the favorite spots of the Neanderthals, just here. We find evidence for something that would have been not suspected a few years ago.
The first discovery of a Neanderthal rock engraving. A grid pattern, carbon dated to at least 39,000 years ago. Scientists believe the Neanderthal carver intended it as a clan marker, perhaps staking a claim to the cave. The marker is a clue that Neanderthals, like modern humans, were capable of abstract thought, and it challenges the belief that Neanderthal were the intellectually inferior species.
They may not have spoken the same language, they may not have thought that beautiful things were what we think as beautiful things, but they had the capacity for abstraction, and I have no doubt that they have similar cognitive abilities to modern humans.
A different picture of Neanderthal is now emerging. That of a species more like us than we ever imagined. Then why and how did they vanish from the world? Who were the Neanderthal? Their story begins 600,000 years ago in Africa with another species, the evolutionary ancestors of both Neanderthal and modern humans, Homo heidelbergensis. They are the first humans known to harness the power of fire and hunt with wooden spears.
They've advanced over more ancient people. They have bigger brains. They have adapted in a human-like way. But it has none of the specializations that are in Neanderthals, and it doesn't have the specializations that are in modern humans. They're not either like us or like Neanderthals. They're ancestors of us both.
It's a time of great climactic change, brought on by a slight shift of the Earth's axis that tilts the North Pole away from the sun. The polar caps expand, moving across North America and Northern Europe. Temperatures drop by as much as 20 degrees in the Northern Hemisphere. 300 to 400,000 years ago in Europe, the Ice Age elements forge a new breed of man. By banding together, Neanderthals survive the hardships and thrive in this Ice Age environment. They follow wandering herds of bison and stalk more evasive prey, like deer.
Their ability to provide resources like vegetation and roots and tubers and fruits was probably extremely limited. They were forced to eat mainly hunted animals.
Their hunting tool is the thrusting spear, a powerful weapon, but only useful if the prey is within arm's reach. This makes every hunt a most dangerous game. When they return to camp, the hunters butcher their prize using razor-sharp blades made of flint. They cook their meat over an open fire, rendering the toughest chunks more digestible. They scrape and stretch the hide, making the leather soft and pliable.
They're creating the hides for them to make some clothing out of to wear. They're using rock to make tools rapidly. They were able to master the environment that they lived in.
For now, Neanderthals are masters of their world. But one day, their rule will be threatened by another species, our direct ancestors, modern humans. For over a century, many scientists have marked this as the beginning of the end for Neanderthal. Within 10,000 years of modern humans' arrival, Neanderthals would disappear across most of Europe. The timing seems more than coincidental for many scientists.
In this theory, Neanderthals were extinguished by invading modern humans.
80 to 60,000 years ago, groups of modern humans headed north in search of more fertile hunting grounds into the Middle East and Asia. And a few pushed west, entering Neanderthals' European homeland. They carry throwing spears, a weapon built to kill from a distance. And they are different in appearance. The newcomers are hunters. And they come seeking the land and game Neanderthals claim as their own. For over a century, many scientists have marked this as the beginning of the end for Neanderthal. And there is tantalizing evidence linked to this theory. A clue from what might be the world's oldest cold case. A 40 to 50,000 year old rib from a Neanderthal skeleton found in an Iraqi cave. It bears the mark of a fatal wound.
This may be the best case of a Neanderthal murder victim.
But who is the killer? There are only two possibilities: another Neanderthal or an invading Homo sapien. In Mettmann, Germany, at the Neanderthal Museum, forensic anthropologist John Hawks examines the ancient evidence, searching for answers.
The thing is that this rib has this big gash in it. It was clearly made by some sort of stone point or a sharp edge. The next door rib, the 8th rib, has only a very minor reaction on it. So that indicates that the point that made this injury was very small.
This suggests a precision-cut blade, a weapon unlike the heavy Neanderthal thrusting spear.
Some sort of small point made this injury punched into the thoracic column.
The blade entered at a 45-degree angle. The downward trajectory suggests a weapon thrown overhead.
So that indicates that this was a projectile point made by a modern human. Neanderthals persist for a good long time after modern humans appear out of Africa. And it takes a long time for modern humans to succeed in the habitats where Neanderthals are still going strong. You know, they were able to master the environment that they lived in.
There are still people who will argue that these Neanderthals were somehow inferior, and it's our arrival that irrevocably eliminated anything that stood in our way. I think it's total nonsense.
Today, a consensus is emerging. Modern humans did not kill off the Neanderthal. So what was it that put them at a disadvantage? In the Carpathian Mountains of Romania, a team of archaeologists is preparing to return to the site of a landmark discovery. a location that proves modern humans and Neanderthals once coexisted together peacefully. Here in 2002, cavers stumbled on a human jawbone. This led to a 3-year excavation conducted by a group of archaeologists trained in cave exploration. The scientists uncovered evidence that modern humans and Neanderthals may have inhabited the cave at the same time. This revealing footage is from an expedition in 2003, a mission that paid off. On this dig, in a dark corner, a team member notices something.
That looks like human over there, under that long bones.
A fragment of a skull. It will become part of a larger, landmark discovery.
The skull was really something shocking, very special for the history of humankind.
You look at this skull as a whole. This is a modern human with Neanderthal features. It's that sort of discovery which happens once in a lifetime. This skull was recomposed from 40 pieces.
It took Constantine and his team 3 years to reconstruct the skull and determine the exact features.
It has a long face, which is not encountered in modern humans.
The teeth are different too.
The size of them is too large for a modern sapiens. It is much closer to the size of the teeth of a Neanderthal.
And then the most telling feature of all.
When you look at the back, you find you have this occipital bone.
This protrusion shields the occipital lobe, where visual information is processed. The one area where Neanderthal's brain is larger than our own.
It's not typical for sapiens, but it's typical for Neanderthals. This may be the missing link, the link between sapiens and the Neanderthal.
What are our relationships? How do we fit in with the Neanderthals? To me, it's still one of the most wondrous mysteries that we have about our origins, where we came from.
At the University of Washington, scientists are searching for traces of Neanderthal in our own DNA. In 2010, scientists mapped the Neanderthal genome. And when they compared it to the genome of modern man, they made a surprising discovery.
Essentially, everybody outside of Africa had Neanderthal ancestry. That number varies a little bit by population, but probably per individual, it's between 1.9 and 2.1% of the genome.
But where does our Neanderthal heritage truly show?
We found about 10 places in the genome where we inherited a beneficial Neanderthal sequence. And quite strikingly, many of these regions contain genes important to hair and skin biology.
One example is a gene known to influence skin pigmentation. Among people of European descent, fair skin is a trait possibly inherited from the Neanderthal.
So European individuals at this place in the genome are more Neanderthal than they are modern humans.
Straight hair may be another Neanderthal trait we inherited.
It's clear that something about hair or skin biology of Neanderthals was beneficial to our ancestors. Maybe it helped our ancestors survive in these more cold, adapted climates.
But this only adds to the mystery of Neanderthals' disappearance. If their genetic adaptations helped us survive, why did the Neanderthal perish? One clue may lie with where modern humans and Neanderthals lived. 40,000 years ago, modern humans inhabited Africa, Asia, Europe, even Australia. Their population had grown to a few 100,000. Neanderthals never numbered more than 100,000. Confined to areas in Europe and Asia, they were more vulnerable to regional events.
The Neanderthals succeeded in that environment. They evolved their special adaptations to cold, and they were successful over time there. But at the same time, that was a challenging environment.
Is it possible the environment grew too severe, too harsh for even the Neanderthal to bear? 40,000 years ago, centuries of drastic climate change have ravaged much of Europe, turning Neanderthal hunting grounds into barren fields of icy earth. To the north, countless Neanderthals perish from exposure and starvation. But others turn to one of Neanderthals' oldest survival tactics. They move. Sometimes hundreds of miles away from their traditional lands. Far from the protection of caves, Neanderthals erect tents fashioned from hides. Adaptations, survival strategies, and skills developed over the course of 300,000 years see them through the era of drastic cooling and encroaching ice.
It was a challenging environment. It was challenging in terms of climate. They were fulfilling those challenges. They survived those challenges.
But the centuries of unrelenting climate change do take their toll. They deplete the Neanderthal population to possibly no more than 20,000, pushing the species towards a precarious tipping point.
My suspicion is that the population of Neanderthals were probably very highly dispersed in the landscape and very, very small. And this lends you to the possibility of chance events affecting you, even catastrophic events, could a volcanic eruption or a tsunami if you're on the coast. These things can really have a significant impact when your populations are that small.
In the south of Italy, scientists investigate the possible culprit. One of the largest volcanoes in the world, and the largest in Europe. This sleeping giant is known to have erupted 39,000 years ago. And it may be waking up again, threatening the lives of millions today. In the hills nearby Naples, Antonio Costa and Roberto Izaya are searching for remnants of the volcano's violent past. Traces of an ancient eruption that may be linked to Neanderthals' extinction.
Questo è l'affioramento che ti dicevo, vedi? E questo, this is the layer that we are talked about before, this one.
These cliffs are over 200 feet high. They're composed of volcanic debris deposited during a single eruption. Their height alone points to the sheer power of this blast.
That's the ash. That is the ash.
Ash from this cliff has been carbon dated to approximately 39,000 years ago, the time of Neanderthals' disappearance throughout most of the world. But was this eruption powerful enough to wipe out the Neanderthal?
I think that an eruption in Italy could have been significant. My question then would be, what is the extent? The geographical area, is it greater than we've suspected?
Throughout the Mediterranean, up to Russia and into Asia, scientists have collected and measured ash dated to 39,000 years ago. Samples are sent to the University of Bayreuth in Germany. Here, Ulrich Hambach analyzes them to determine if they originated from the Campi-Flegrei eruption. All volcanic ash has a specific chemical fingerprint that is unique to the blast that deposited it. The tests reveal the chemical components of the ash samples. Each sample has an identical chemical profile, a profile that matches a single eruption, the Campi-Flegrei blast.
It's the same for the sites we investigated, and it's the same for the sites colleagues investigated from Russia down to Libya.
The research shows the terrifying scale of the blast. The eruption spread ash across 3 continents, encompassing large swaths of the territory where Neanderthal once lived. At the observatory in Naples, Antonio Costa and Roberto Izaya are generating a computer simulation of the Campi-Flegrei eruption 39,000 years ago. Using this simulation, the scientists can piece together what happened 39,000 years ago. The Campi Flegrei volcano looms above the land. It will soon come crashing down. Neanderthals nearby feel the first signs of an imminent eruption. A barrage of tremors emanating from the volcano. It's the most powerful eruption in Europe in the last 200,000 years. Pyroclastic flows burst from the volcano, rampaging over a 40-mile range. The cascade of gas and molten rock, superheated to over 1,500 degrees, travels at speeds approaching 500 miles per hour. The cloud of debris blocks the sun for weeks. Ash rains down on an area that stretches from Russia to North Africa.
So conditions in Europe at that time were already very difficult. Then on the top of this condition, we had a volcanic winter.
In the ash zone, Neanderthals and modern humans face a slow and torturous death. The smothering ash blocks sunlight and oxygen. It also contains high levels of fluorine, a deadly chemical for plant life.
When vegetation die, animals die, and the humans as well don't have a source of food.
Many Neanderthal wither away and slowly die from starvation. Others develop symptoms of severe fluorine poisoning, chronic fatigue, nausea, and eventually death. The first ones to die are the children and the elderly. But deprived of food and light, even the strong do not survive for long. Vast forested lands where Neanderthals lived for millennia are now desolate, inhabited by dying members of a doomed species. Across much of Europe, modern humans and Neanderthals are completely wiped out. Only Neanderthals on the outer reaches of their territory survive. The place they survive the longest, the Rock of Gibraltar. For another 15,000 years, they live on as they always have, unaware they are the last of their kind.
So they just carried on living their day-to-day lives as best they could, and gradually their numbers dwindled, and one day they just disappeared.
Leaving behind their caves and their remains for our own species to discover. The Neanderthals reigned for 300,000 years. Whether we survive as long is a big unknown.
I think it's a matter of chance, and like I often say, if it had gone another way, we would be Neanderthals now talking about the extinction of the other people.
I don't think we'd be able to recognize the Neanderthals today if they were just out on the street. Not only would they probably succeed in modern society, at some professions they probably would have been better than even us.
We are the sole human species on the planet. But the Neanderthal do live on in our DNA, perhaps strengthening our ability to cope with the challenges of life on Earth and survive when they could not.